Hey everybody, and welcome back to our PortSwigger Web Academy series. In this playlist, we're going to focus on directory traversal. I do have other playlists that focus on other learning paths, their solutions, as well as in-depth explanations. So feel free to check them out if ever you find yourself getting stuck on your own while learning or going through the Web Academy. I'm hoping it will provide you the clarity that you need to get through. But if not, feel free to just drop a comment below and I'll do my best to try to answer your question. So let's get it. So directory traversal or file path traversal or just plain old path traversal is a vulnerability that allows attackers to access restricted directories and possibly execute outside of a web server's root directory. Now, this vulnerability is usually present when one or more security mechanisms are not in place on the web server, which includes access control lists, which are also called ACLs, and root directory. So an access control list is used to indicate which users or groups can access, modify, or execute files on a server. The root directory is a specific directory on the server system where users are confined. Users usually aren't able to access anything above this directory, and if they are, directory traversal is present. So when neither of these mechanisms are in place, users can traverse their way to other folders on the web servers using techniques that we will discover throughout this playlist and go through. So that brings us to lab number 1. But let me first provide you with this disclaimer. If you haven't checked out my other videos yet, let me let you know right here and now that I am in no shape or form supported, endorsed, or whatever by PortSwigger. I'm not sponsored by them. I hold no weight with them. They do not pay me. They don't even take me out to dinner, lunch, or whatever to make these videos. I'm also not saying they're the top flight #1 greatest or worst academy out there. I'm just here trying to help others with their goals of gaining confidence in cybersecurity while completing this academy. So let's get back to the money. All right, so we're here at the lab. And just a disclaimers here, I'm not doing this on purpose, but if you like the sound of my keyboard, you're welcome. So anyway, to solve this lab, you need to fire up Burp Suite, so go ahead and do that. I tend to use the built-in browser in Web Academy. No, excuse me. In Burp Suite, I do have the professional version, but you don't need that. You can do with the community version. It too has a built-in browser. The built-in browser is basically built similar to Chromium, if not it is Chromium. And basically what it does is it automatically captures my traffic without me having to change any network configurations to my browser. You can do whichever one you please. I don't care. I just like to do this because it's faster and it saves me time. So that being said, let's dive into it. We're at the lab file path traversal simple case, and the lab basically says it contains a file path traversal vulnerability in the display of product images. And to solve the lab, retrieve the contents of the Etsy password file. So we're gonna jump right in here. If you click access the lab, if you click access the lab, let me go to home, you'll get shown this. And so what I tend to do regardless, and I make a habit out of this, and I tend to stress this point in every first video for each lab, each series, is that get into the habit of looking around the application, the web application, its functionality, stuff like that. Like if you're really trying to get into cybersecurity or just pen testing or anything of that nature, you really want to just get into the habit of understanding how a web application works, looking at the URL. So if you look here and I go to view details, I see that there's a /product and product ID =1. And if I dive in here and say, oh, let me look at the image, I'll also see, boom, the image has a similar parameter as product. And that is going to be the focal point for our lab today. So when you come in here, you'll see, like I said, that product has a parameter in URL, and so the product ID has a parameter, and so does file name. And first off, before I dive into this even deeper, I strongly suggest reading the pre-lab material to just understand exactly just a little bit deeper how directory traversal works. This is just a solution video, so I'm not going to go too deep into it, but PortSwigger tends to give you a great amount of information as seen here. This is actually the pre-lab material. This will be the first and last time I actually show this to you unless I'm referencing it. And another great thing about this pre-lab material is PortSwigger also tends to make it extremely easy in the beginning from apprentice to practitioner labs, and they literally sometimes just give you the answer from the pre-material for the lab that you're doing, which is exactly what we're going to do here. As you can see in this second part, it says the application implements no defenses against directory traversal attacks, so an attacker can request the following URL to retrieve an arbitrary file from the server's file system. And then here you have a URL. You're given a parameter that looks just like ours, which says load image and then file name. Here, it gives us a file name, but instead of just referencing the actual name, it goes to Etsy password. And so, this is something that we want to use. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to replace this file name with Etsy password. So this is a little directory traversal. If something bad happens here, it's probably because I'm missing a period. But I'm going to, before I press enter, I'm going to pull up Burp Suite and I'm going to intercept this. So if you haven't used Burp before, intercept just basically intercepts the request to the server before it gets sent to the server. This is it, right? Yeah, this is it. Get out of this one, mess it up. So I'm going to throw that in there, press enter. Boom, you can see I captured the request. I'm going to right click and actually send this to repeater because I don't like searching for things. And you'll see in a second why I did this. But anyway, let's forward it. I didn't capture the request. I meant the response, which sucks. I need to set that as default. But here, nothing happened. But if I go up here to the top, it says lab is solved. Now, in order to solve the lab, you're probably wondering, what in the world, what did I do? Because I was supposed to retrieve the contents of the Etsy password file. So remember, we sent this to repeater, and this is an extra step. You really don't have to do this if you actually capture the response. But I'm going to send this again, and boom, this is the request, and this is the response to the request I sent. These are the contents to the Etsy password, and that's how you sound the file. That's how you solve the lab. You don't see the results on the web application. You just see it in the response. So if you solved it and didn't know what happened, that's what happened. And if you never solved it and you didn't understand why, it's probably because you didn't throw in a technique for directory traversal in the file name parameter. Remember, it said in the lab that the product images had the file path traversal. And why is this important? Basically, the file name is being taken as a parameter, which is a huge no-no because this is yet another place for user input that does not need to happen. We can inject anything in this parameter and play around, but in this case, we're just going to just throw Etsy password in there. Another reason is because we're able to access a file outside of this. So in the beginning of the video, I said you need at least 2 security mechanisms, which is root directory and access control lists or ACLs. And if neither or one of the other is not present, you're able to traverse outside of the root directory, which is the directory you're supposed to just be on as a regular user, and you're able to get out of that and traverse to other files on the server, which in this case happens to be the Etsy password, which holds all the passwords for users on the server, hence here. So you can use this information to compromise a server and do even worse damage. I mean, look, we got stuff for admin, for databases and root. It's just ridiculous. So, but that's where this lab ends. That's your explanation, and I hope you solve it, and I'll see you in the next one.